Welcome to the session number 41 of Operating System on Linux. I'm Manibhushan D'Souza, and in today's session, we are going to discuss about process-oriented commands and background processing. So these are the topics for today. We will see the commands which are associated with the process-oriented commands and also how to send the processor to the background. So let's start with the process-oriented command. Okay. We are all familiar that a process is nothing but a job or a program in execution. Because the Linux is a multi-programming operating system, there will be more than one program which are running at any given instant of time. At the same time, more than one user can use the Linux. So there will be many programs which are running in Linux. However, if there is only one CPU which is there in the system, then at any given instant of time, even though there are multiple number of processes are there or even though there are multiple number of programs in a very simple way, programs are there residing on the memory, one of them will be executing. Now we know very well that from the ready programs which are there on the memory, one of them has to be selected and given to the CPU, and there is one particular program that is called as a scheduler, which runs all the time and is responsible for selecting the program or the process from the ready queue and giving it to the CPU. Now let's look at one of the command that we can use to see how many processes are running on the system. Now we know that there will be more than one program running or more than one process executing in the system at any given instant of time. But which are those processes? Suppose if you really want to know which processes are running at a given instant of time, then you can use the command ps. So this ps command has a many variant. So I can use ps minus a command to see all the processes which are created by all the users who have logged on to the system, provided I have the privilege for that. Or I can use ps minus t to specify the terminals on which I would like to see the processor. At the same time, I can also use ps minus u to see the processes which are created by the particular user. So let's look at this in the demonstration. So I have a Fedora which is running over here. I will log on to this Fedora. So when I log on to this Fedora, I'm going to start a terminal. For that, I'm going to, let me slightly zoom it a bit. So I'm going to go to the application, and then I'm going to go to the system tool, and under system tool I'm going to open up the terminal. So I'll click on this terminal. When I click on this terminal, I'll get a terminal prompt. So let me zoom that a bit. Okay, so I have the terminal. Let me execute the command ps. So ps is going to show you which are the processes which are currently running on our system. So let me slightly go here and zoom out. I can't zoom in and zoom out in that. So I can do over here is I can think of changing the terminal. Okay, slightly I'm going to zoom it out. Oh, sorry, zoom it in for that. Okay, so I'm going to use the control plus so it's not taking up. Okay, so I'm slightly increasing the width so that you can see it properly. Okay, so you can see this command now. So I have just executed the PS. I'm going to again zoom it using Windows so that you can see it properly. So I'm going to use a PS command. Let me click here and then type PS. So it's going to show me the process which are running at a given instance of time. Now you notice that there is this bash, which is the shell that I'm currently logged on to, and PS is the command that I just executed. So you have only these many processes which are running. Now I can check all the processor by typing ps minus a, and if I do that, you will notice that all the commands which are available. I can also use ps minus l, which will give me a lengthier description of all the processes which are running. Now if you look at this ps command over here, TTY refers to the terminal on which the processes are running. Suppose if I want to see the terminal on which particular process are running, so I can say ps minus t, and my terminal, current terminal, I have to decide. Now which is the current terminal? If you really want to know, there is a command. Let me first show you. TTY, just type TTY and it's going to tell you which is the terminal on which you are currently logged in. So I know that it is PTS0, so I can now say PS show the processor minus T, and I can say PTS, okay, slash 0, so that will be the one. And because I you know that this is the same thing that I'm been using. Also I can use PS minus T and minus u, and then the user I've logged in as money. So if I try to do it, you will notice that all these processes that you see, there is lengthy of processor. These are all started by me. Now you may say that, okay, all these, what are these things? If you ask me, I have a desktop which is running at the back side. You notice that. So this is GNU session that is being running over here, and all the GNU related files or all the GNU related processes are being shown up on here. So you can notice that clock applet which is there. Let me slightly zoom in. I will have to go to Windows for it to zoom out directly to the Linux. If I get it in full screen, you will notice that there is this thing that is being shown, that is the applet that shows the clock there. I'm just giving you one. So this is the one that applet that shows the clock there. Also you can see many things like a screensaver, which I can show you that have been used there. So these are all the things which are running on me. Now suppose if I create one more terminal. So let's go here and let's go to the system and let's go to the other terminal. So this is the second terminal I have created. If I zoom in, let me zoom in a bit. This is my second terminal. So if I go to this terminal and if I type on this, if I type TTY, you'll notice that it is PTS01. This is the second terminal. Okay. If I run anything on this terminal, for example, I will type CD to my desktop. Okay. The reason for that is on my desktop, let me show you a bit over here. On my desktop, I have a small script here, myprobe.ch. Let me open it and show you. So there is a small echo and read a number and enter number. It's going to just read a number and it's going to show that number for me. So let me run that in my terminal. I will zoom out. So it is a bit difficult for me to do it, but let me try that thing. So I have this. I'm going to close that one. It's not really required. Now I have two terminals here. One terminal here, on the other terminal on the other side. On the second terminal, let me zoom in for you. So I'm going to run that thing. So that is sh and my probe.sh. So it's going to ask me enter a number. So I'm going to say 34, and it's going to show you the result. Enter a number, and you have entered a number. So that's it. It's a very small program. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this one more time. Now program is still running because I'm supposed to enter a number here. Now I'm going to go to the other terminal. Let me zoom out for you, and let's show you. So this is my one terminal, and the bigger one is my other terminal. I'm going to go to the other terminal. Let me clear everything. Okay, I'm going to go to the other terminal, and in the other terminal I'm going to say ps minus t, and this terminal is pts/1. If I type that thing, you will notice that it is showing that on the terminal 1, on this terminal that I'm talking about, on this terminal there are two things that are running. One is this bash, which is nothing but the shell that is been activated, and the next is the sh command that I am using. If you notice that I have just said sh here, sh followed by the name of the file which need to be executed, and it is still executing. Okay, now if I go over here and enter some number, wait every time for 30, okay, some number, so that program has exited now. Now if I go and type the same command, you will notice that only bash shell is there, because that program has completed, or that process has completed. So this is how you can use those commands. Let me go to the PowerPoint now. Let's go to the last one. Now if you want to see all the command which are associated with the system, you can also see with the ps minus x. So I will simply show you that command once. So if you say ps minus x, you will see all the system related commands or system related process which are running at this particular place. Let me clear it for you, and let me show you that you can use man file for ps to know more about the ps. So this is the information about the ps, how you can use the ps, and what are the different options which are available. You have a lot of options, because I am showing you a very brief demonstration. Kindly go through the man files for ps to learn more about the ps command. Now I'm going to go to my PowerPoint to continue with the next command, and my next command. So some examples that are being given here. PS will just display the content, PS minus a, all of them on a particular terminal. Remember, terminal, just type TTY to understand or to learn about which is the terminal on which you are using. And PS minus u followed by the name of the user who has logged in. Now suppose if you want a process to run, you can type on the command prompt, but sometimes we want the process to run in the background. That means I want that process to run, but in the foreground I want to continue with something else. For example, if I want to sort a very lengthy set of numbers, if I do it on the prompt, what will happen is I can't do anything else. I have to wait until that particular work is completed. And we know that Linux can run more than one file, and Linux is multitasking. So I can put one task in the background, and I can continue with the other task in the foreground. So how do I send something in the background? To send something in the background, type the command. At the end of the command, put ampersand. So when you put the ampersand, that particular command will run in the background. For example, if you want to sort a file, then you say sort followed by the name of the file and put the ampersand. When you put the ampersand, you will get a number which is called as a program identification or a program ID, which you can use to refer it back whenever you want to use it. So let's demonstrate that with an example. Suppose if you have a program which is running, so I'm going to again change to the desktop. So in my desktop, if I ls it, you will I will just first cd to desktop, and then I'm going to ls it. So I have a file called as myprogram.sh. Now if I cat this myprogram.sh, you will notice that there is only this small things which are there. So if I run this sh my program, my program and type it. It's going to ask me for a number. I type the number and it shows it. Okay, now I want this thing to run in the background. How do I do that thing? I type the same thing. Last I'm going to put an ampersand. So you notice that I have put an ampersand here to say that it will run in the background. So when I do that, what I'm going to get is, if I do this, I will get the process ID. Now what is this process ID? If you type ps, you will notice that a sh is running, that is this shell script is running. And what is the ID of that? 20002. Remember, it's a number. It's a number you are going to get depending upon how you are using it. So this is the number 002, and that is the process ID that it is giving. So next time I want to refer to that, we can always do that. So this process is still running. It has not completed. It's not terminated. It is running, waiting for the command. Now if you want to know how many processes are there in the background, you just type bg. bg will show you that there is one which is running in the background. Now how do I bring it to the foreground? bg is for background, fg is for foreground. Foreground followed by which one? I have only first one, so I'm only one in the background. So I type fg1. It's going to start my program. Remember, this is the same program. You notice first it's going to ask me for enter a number. I type a number and it's going to show the number. So I'll type that number, any number I can type. This program is running now. Press enter, I get it. So how do I send something? Anything you can send it to the background. So it runs in the background. So how do you do that thing? So type any command. So like ls, if you type, or anything, any command, sort, any command that you are aware of, if you want it to run at the background, what you have to do is at the end put the ampersand. So let me do that thing over here. So I'm going to say sh, and let me say my program, that is my program dot this, and put ampersand. That's end of it. Press enter. It is there in the background. So this is how you send it to the background. Now whenever you run a command, if you press Ctrl C, the terminal will that particular program will exit. So that's a general thing. Ctrl C, if you press it, whatever command you are typing, Ctrl C means you want to just terminate it. Now this is when you are typing a command, and if you find that okay, that command is not required, press Ctrl C. That's it. That command will terminate. Now this is actually an interrupt signal that is sent to the program, asking the program to stop the execution, because the user doesn't want that program to execute. However, because I have sent the program in the background, there is no way I can type Ctrl C. Remember, when you type the Ctrl C, the program which is running, or the process which is running, that get terminated. But what I have done now is I have sent one process in the background. So if I press Ctrl C, which one? I can send any number of programs in the background. So which one need to be terminated? So I really don't know. So what if I want to stop a background process? Remember, a foreground process can be terminated much easily. So if you go over here, and one program, remember, one is already running in the background. So yes, if I type this sh without this prompt, you get this enter a number. What if I say Control C, that program, say, remember I said Control C, that program is terminated. Remember, look at that program, you enter a number, Control C is sent, so it is a direct interrupt to that program, asking the program terminate it. I don't want you to proceed. So that process gets terminated and it will continue. What if I want to terminate this program which is already running in the background? It is still running. The 200 process is still running. So what to do in that case? What is the way in which I can terminate? For this we have a command called as a kill. So kill can be used to terminate any process if you know the process ID. So this is the syntax of the kill. So you type kill followed by the signal number. Signal number can range from 0 to 15. So any number you can specify, followed by the process ID, that is the process identification. In general, if you type kill without the signal number, then it is assumed that you are using the signal number 15. Remember, larger the number, lower is its ability to stop it. So if you type the signal number 9 and 15, which one is powerful? Signal number 9 is powerful, 10 is less powerful, 11 is less powerful, 12 is less powerful, 13, 14, 15. 15 is the least powerful way. 15 is just going to the process and asking you, can you please terminate? So the process may say, no, I am not interested in terminating. In that case, the process will simply continue. 9, 8, 7 means just go and cut that process. That's all. Don't ask anything, just cut it out and then say you are out. So it is a harsh way of terminating. So if you put the lower number, so 0, 1, 2, don't try to put it or use the manual file. I can't explain everything in a short video over here. Use the manual file to know which one is the right one to use. So signal number 9, usually that number says it's a forceful termination of the process, asking it to just cut it out from the system. So how do you terminate a process? Now let's go and try to kill this process. Remember, I have a process. Let me clear this because it is cluttering. If I type bg, you know that this particular process is stuck. And what is the ID of that process? You notice that sh, the ID is process ID is 2004. So what if I say kill without anything 2004? That's a process ID. This is the ID of it. So I'm trying to kill that thing and press enter. So in that case, now what happens? If I type bg, you notice it is unlike in the previous case, nothing is going to come. If I type ps, you will notice that the ps is there, bash is there, but sh is not there. That process got terminated. It's all over. You have just killed it. Okay, so suppose if I again start with sh, my program dot sh, and send it to background. Okay, so and send it to background. It is running in the background. And now let me clear it so that you can see it. Let me ps it. So the shell number is now 2009. That's the ID of the process. Now I can say kill -9 followed by 2009. So this is the signal number. So 2009, if you do it and press enter, it's all over. So if you now type ps minus, just type ps, that's enough. You notice that one of the process has been killed. So you notice that process 1 has been killed. As such, my program is all over. It got just killed because it is a forceful killing. Okay, so this is how the kill will work. Okay, type the signal number and process ID. So for example, kill 120 means any process with the number 120 is killed. Kill -9, 120 means you are forcefully killing. Remember, whenever you log in, your terminal number is always 0. This is the process ID 0. If you say kill 09, that terminal itself will close. I will just do a demonstration. I have one other terminal here. I'm going to type that thing. I will try to zoom it for you. So just a bit. So this is the other terminal. So what if I say, let me click here, kill -9 and the process ID is 0. That means this terminal, that terminal itself will go. Okay, so that terminal is out there. Let me go back to the PowerPoint now. Let's continue. Okay, now sometimes what happens is the programs get stuck in between. So when you log out, whatever program you are running will be stopped. You know very well. So when you are logging out means you are closing everything and just moving out. So the system says, when you are moving out, the system says, okay, you are moving out. Whatever program you have running, they are not required because you are moving out. You know, why should I run it? So that's a general case. But however, in some situation, we would like our program to be still be running even though we have logged out. For example, I'm going home now at 4 o'clock. I'm leaving the office and going home, but I have a lot of things to be done. I don't have time. I have to somehow work out of it, so I have to log out. But I want some process to be running. My system will be on, so I want the process to be running in the background. So even though I am walking out, I am logging out of the system. But whatever I started, I want the Linux to execute it. In other words, I don't want my program to hang up. So for that we have a command called as no hanger. So no hanger, shortcut for it is no hub. Okay, no hanger. Okay, so that's a simple word for that. You have to type no hanger and followed by the command that you are executing it. So no hanger. Type the command name and then put the ampersand so that it runs in the background. Then you can log out. Your process will be still be running. Okay, for example, no hub sort employee.doc, so it will be running in the background. So what is the difference between these two things? So let's look at that one. So I'm going to type this sh my program dot this is my program. Okay, and this is you have sent something to the background, that's all. If you log out now, if it close this terminal, that background process will be terminated because you are moving out. Suppose even if I close, I want that program to run. In that case, what I'm supposed to do is I have to say no hub followed by the name of my command, that is sh my program dot sh, and just send it to the background, that's all. What's the difference between these two things? The difference between these two things is, one is this particular, the one that I have used on no hub. This will be running even if I close this I'm not going to do it. Even if I close this terminal, that process will be still be running. So let's use let me clear it first because it's going to clutter if I do it. If I use ps, you notice that there are two commands which are there. So this is you have this running over there, sh. Okay, now if I type bg, what will happen? So I think I closed one of them accidentally. So one of them is running. Now if you want to kill them, what you have to do, it is very simple. Whether you are using no hub or anything, just kill it by 216, I think that's the number, and it will be done. If I use ps, it is not terminated because it is no hub is there. So in that case, what to do? That is no hub, is it not? So I said this was a polite way. What did I do here is I politely said to 2016 here, this one, that can you please stop. It said no, I can't do it. I am running no hub, that is no hanger. So I am not asking anything, I am just killing it. Okay, now if I do it, you notice that 2016 is gone. That one process has been killed. So when you use 9, it is like you take a sword and just cut it out, that's all. Don't ask anything, just cut it out. So it is gone. Okay, whereas if you just use the kill command, you are politely asking, can you please stop, and then the process may say that no, I am not interested in stopping. So it may be a bit no, it may show some attitude. In that case, what to do is use -9. By the way, if at all you want to know more about these commands, you always are familiar with this, just type no hub and you get the details about it. You don't need to search for anything. Unix, all the commands, you get the details about it. You can always read more information over here. Examples will also be there. Also, if you want to know about man kill, so if you want to man kill means it, English people may not like this, but still, man means manual, kill means the command. So you get the command regarding this, the help regarding that, not the command, how to use that particular command. So whenever you are in trouble, just go to the terminal, type man followed by the command name, you get the help. So that's a good thing about the Linux or Unix OS. When you are stuck, you just type manual, files are always available to you, you can always use it. So let's look at the other command. The other command is at command. So if I want a particular command to run at a particular time, like at 7 o'clock, at 5 o'clock, at 2 o'clock, if I want some commands to run at that particular time, then I can use at command. At followed by the time at which I want it to be run, followed by the command, and then I can type the list of command, press Ctrl D to end this list. So at a particular time that command will run. Okay, now let's look at that in action. So I'm going to go over here. Let me clear the clutter over here. And you have this cat command, you know very well. Cat command, even though it concatenates, but it can be used to display the content of a particular file. So I want to show the content of this file. So which is this file? The file that I have. So you have this no up output. Okay, that output, let me not show that. Okay, let's look at the out command. So this is the file. There are 3 lines are there in this file. So this is colorful way, is it not? If you want to see it in black and white, type cat followed by the command. If you press it, you are going to get the same thing. Whatever this is showing, the same thing you are going to get it. So read echo enter a number, echo enter a number, read echo the entered number, and so on. So this is the file that I am displaying it. Now I want to show this, I want to send this one to the other file. So look at here, I have only one file here. Hope you can see that. So I said I'm going to use the same cat command. I use the greater than symbol to other files. So I'm going to say your file dot sh. When I do that, what will happen is if I don't specify anything, it's going to show it on the terminal here. When I do it, it's going to create a new file. Can you see there? It just created a new file here. If I open it, that's the same file. It just created a copy of that file. Now I want this command to be executed. I'll delete that thing. I want this command to be executed at a particular time. So what is my time over here is 5:44 p.m. So I want it to be 5:44 means it is 3 o'clock means it is 15, then 4 5, that is 17:44. So at 17:45, let me make it as 45, I want this command to be executed. So what is that command I want to be executed? I have to be very careful to type it very fast. So I'm going to say my prog dot sh to your file dot sh and Control D to that. So at 9:45, is it over? Oh, I think that thing is already over. Okay, it just got executed, and you notice that it just created that file. Can you see there? Okay, I can wait for 2 minutes and try to do it. Now 45 is there. I'll delete it again. Now that it is just created that file. Remember, at that particular time, it's going to create it. Okay, let me try it one more time. So I'm going to say at 17 let me say 45, so 47, let me say at 47 I have to type this command, that is cat my prog dot sh, and I'm sending it to your file dot sh and then Control D. So there is a job, there is a job that is been created at 47. Now the current time is 46. When it is 47, the command, it is 46 now. One more minute is there. If you want, I will zoom it out for you. Let me zoom it out for you. So if you are not able to see it, the current time is 46. So at 47, you are going to see automatically that file, your file.sh, being created. That means to say that it automatically will execute this command at a particular time. So you can say that, okay, at 12 o'clock I want this file to be executed. Like at the end of the day, I want all the files to be backed up to somewhere. Or in the morning, I want everything to be reset back. Anything you can do it. So suppose at a particular time, you want some commands to be executed. In that case, what you can do is you can use the at command. So this at followed by the list of file. I have just given one here and press Ctrl D, but you can use any number. So it is not just one command, you can say set of commands. So you notice that it has become 47. Automatically you will notice that it created that file. If I open it, it's the same file. Okay, so it at that particular point automatically, when the time comes, it will execute, and that is the beauty of that at command. So at command can be used to run a command at a particular time. So for example, at 12 o'clock you can say lunch break, and it automatically it will execute that thing. There are other things that at command can do. I can say execute it now, or execute at noon, that is 12 o'clock, at midnight, today, tomorrow. These are the keywords that you can use. For example, at noon, type it. So exactly at 12 o'clock it will run it. In the same way, there are other things like hours, days, week. You can say that at 12 plus 1 day, after 1 day, that is tomorrow, you run it. After 2 days, so on this particular date, whatever, at January 20, 2003 plus 2 days. So after 2 days you execute that particular command. So this is how these commands can be used. Now if you have put a lot of commands in the queue, you can always see how many commands are there in the at queue by using at queue, or if you want to remove them, you can also use at rm to remove a particular file from the, or a particular job from the queue. So let me show that thing rather than telling you about what is it all about. So you know that at say at 18, okay, I want to run ls command, I want to run a cat command. Okay, cat my what is that program my prog was there .sh, two commands are there, and Control D, one job is there. Now again something, I'll clear it again so that there is no clutter. At 19 hours, okay, sometime you type, I want to show the date, I want to see the time. I am just giving some command. Let's say these are all commands that are there. So these commands are there. So there are two jobs which are waiting. So I can use at queue to check how many commands are there. There are two commands are there at 8 and 9. Okay. So if I want to remove them, so I have to say at rm remove, then specify the queue number. So 9 is there, at rm 9. So if I do that, that command is removed. So if I use at queue now, only 8 is there. So this 9, the job 9 has been removed. In the same way, I can use at remove 8. In that case, see, this is not 8 o'clock or something, it is the queue number, it is there in the 8th queue, 9th, you are just adding, next will be the 10 and so on. So if I just use at queue, nothing will be there because all two were removed by me. So you can add or you can remove them. So that's the beauty of this particular command. So for example, at queue, if you do it, it may show you some of the files which are added to at queue, and at remove will remove a particular thing. The next one is if you want, it's like batch processing. If you want to specify a set of commands to be loaded and used in the CPU, whenever CPU is free, you can use them, batch them together and put them. So you know very well in the batch processing, what you are doing, you have a set of job that needs to be used whenever CPU is free. The same idea over here, you use the batch command and type the command. Whenever the CPU is free, it's going to execute that particular command. For example, I will not demonstrate to you because of the time restriction. You create a batch and you type the command, whichever command you want, okay, and press Control D to create a batch. Whenever the CPU is free, you can the CPU takes up that job and executes it. So these are the commands that you can use with the processor. if at all you want to learn more about it, please read the book on Linux, A Practical Approach by Mohammed Ibrahim. Thank you for your interest. We'll meet again in the next class.